Breaking news after the Los Angeles District Attorney announced that he would be recommending a new sentencing for the Menendez brothers, saying that he is recommending as soon as tomorrow that the brothers should be eligible for parole immediately. They had been sentenced to life without parole.
He then revealed that he had only made his decision to go forward with this resentencing recommendation 1 hour before this press conference took place. That's how close it came before he reached that decision. Now, because the Menendez brothers committed their crimes before the age of 26, Jane, that means that they are eligible for parole immediately.
I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate, which, because there are 2 murders involved, that will be 50 years to life. However, because of their age, under the law, since they were under 26 years of age at the time that these crimes occurred, they will be eligible for parole immediately.
Do you think they're going to get out?
I hope they're going to get out, and I feel like they just never had that fair chance. And imagine if no one believed you.
Okay, so get this. After over 30 years behind bars, the Menendez brothers, yes, Lyle and Erik, might actually be on the verge of freedom. In a shocking twist that literally no one saw coming, Los Angeles District Attorney Judge Gascón has just dropped a massive bombshell. He's recommended that they get resentenced, which could mean, yeah, they might finally walk free.
So even if a judge agrees with the DA that the sentence should be mitigated to 50 years to life and they should be released immediately, it then has to go before a parole board. And even after that, Governor Gavin Newsom of California does have the right to nix this and reject the option. So there are still a couple of levels left before this is over. But this is obviously a major step in this 35-year-long saga of Erik and Lyle Menendez.
Their family, fans, and everyone who's followed this case from day one, this is beyond huge. But this story goes even deeper than that. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Wait, isn't this the same case we've heard about for decades? Yes, but there's so much more. So let's get into the details of what the district attorney is actually recommending here, because it's not just another headline. It's a big and serious move. Judge Gascón, the Los Angeles DA, came out and said he's officially pushing for Lyle and Erik Menendez to be resentenced.
I have to tell you that after a very careful review of all the arguments that were made for people on both sides of this equation, I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate. What that means in this particular case is that we're going to recommend to the court that the life without the possibility of parole be removed and that they will be sentenced for murder.
For those who might not know, resentencing could mean a life-changing possibilities, like a chance at parole after decades in prison without it. The DA's office reviewed every single piece of evidence and, most importantly, the changes the brothers have made since their conviction. This isn't just another political case for them, and Gascón wants everyone to know that. Why now? After 30 years, Gascón's office has apparently been paying close attention to Lyle and Erik's journey behind bars. They've seen how the brothers transformed from 2 young men who were shut down by the system to 2 individuals who have taken massive steps towards self-growth.
They could have done what many other people do, which is basically said, you know what, I'm here for the rest of my life, so I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to misbehave, I'm going to join gangs, I'm going to live the life of the prison. But they never did that. To the contrary, even though they didn't think that they would ever be let free, they engaged in a different journey. A journey of redemption and a journey of rehabilitation.
There's more. Gascón didn't just make this decision on his own. He even secured a conditional examination with Joan, Kitty Menendez's sister, to get her testimony in place. Joan has been a fierce advocate for her nephews, showing up to support them every step of the way. To put it in the perspective, having family support like this is rare, especially after a case this intense. And Gascón's team made sure her voice was heard in their decision to push the resentencing.
We know that abuse has long-lasting effects, and victims of trauma sometimes act in ways that are very difficult to understand. Lyle and Erik have already paid a heavy price. discarded by a system that failed to recognize their pain. They have grown, they have changed, and they have become better men despite everything that they've been through. It's time to give them the opportunity to live the rest of their lives free from the shadow of their past.
Can you imagine the relief for Lyle and Erik's family, who have been waiting for decades for any hope of seeing their loved ones free again? It's not just a legal victory for them, it's personal and emotional. These family members have waited years and they've been there through everything, including high-profile supporters like Kim Kardashian, who's been actively pushing for prison reform and second chances for people like the Menendez brothers.
And the the sentence that they've been in for almost 35 years, that's more than, a first-degree murder charge. So I think that to have life without the possibility of parole, without the possibility, to me, is so unjust and so unfair. And so I do believe that I'm someone that believes in second chances, and I really believe in them.
For their family, this DA decision is a huge turning point, one that could finally bring them close. Now, we've got to talk about the powerhouse team behind this case. Lyle and Erik's legal team, Mark Gagas, Cliff Gardner, and Alex Kazarian, are some of the best in the game, and they've been fighting this uphill battle from start. Mark Gagas, who has been incredibly vocal, didn't hold back when addressing critics. He was quick to shut down any rumors about this being a political stunt. According to Gagas, Gascón's team has been seriously considering this case for a long time, even before any re-election talks began.
For those who are, I suppose, cynical, that say, oh, it's a political move, it was only done for the election, I'm here to tell you that before there was ever any talk of an election, before there was ever any talk of whether or not he was down in the polls or anything else, this DA had taken seriously our writ of habeas corpus after Judge Ryan issued the request for an informal reply.
For those who say this is just for media, well, Gagas has made it clear that this is not the case. And get this, part of their efforts even included a conditional examination with Joanne, Kitty's sister, to preserve her testimony for the record. Imagine the strength it takes for Joanne, who's lost so much, to stand up and fight for Lyle and Erik, believing in their second chance. For her, this has been about healing, about doing what feels right, and about letting Lyle and Erik finally come home.
I will tell you that the family is uniform behind me in their resolve that these boys need to come home, and today is a monumental victory on that path. Now what happens is it goes in front of a judge. That judge now will make the decision. What the DA recommends is just that. It's a recommendation. It's up to a judge to decide what to do.
When Gagas calls this as a monumental victory, he isn't exaggerating. The whole family, from Joanne to their legal team, is all in on this. They believe it's time for the Menendez brothers to come home, and they're not backing down. So now that we've covered the latest, let's do a quick rewind for anyone who might not remember all the details. We're talking about the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Erik, who were convicted for murdering their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in their Beverly Hills mansion back in 1989.
Couple was sitting around watching TV when their adult sons came in with shotguns and slaughtered them.
It's divided the family immensely. I love my cousins. They shouldn't have gone through what they went through. They're not lying. They were being abused.
We now have evidence that makes absolutely clear that those boys were molested. And if those boys were molested, it would have been manslaughter, and they would be out.
At first, the story was all about money and greed. Everyone thought they did it just to get their parents' fortune. But when the trial began, the brothers dropped a bombshell. They claimed they had endured years of abuse from their father, and their mother had turned a blind eye to it. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a tragic, twisted family story. In their first trial, these allegations of abuse were actually presented, and the jury ended up deadlocked. But then came the second trial, where the judge blocked almost all the evidence about the abuse, leaving the brothers without a chance to explain their side fully.
I was running downstairs and I was crying, and my mother was on the couch and she had been drinking, and she said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Nothing, nothing, you wouldn't understand." And she said, "Oh, I understand. What do you think, I'm stupid?" And she told me that she knew, that she had known all my life what my father was doing. And it was like I didn't even know who she was anymore. And I just saw Dad and Mom as the same person at that point.
This trial resulted in a life sentences without the possibility of parole. For years, the Menendez brothers were just the killers in many people's eyes, and the trauma they claimed to have experienced was largely ignored. Fast forward today, and we have a much different perspective on trauma and abuse. The DA recommendation isn't just about whether they committed the crime. It's about what these two have become and whether they deserve a chance at redemption. In the eyes of many, it's high time this case was revisited with the empathy and understanding we now have about the abuse.
Lyle and Erik deserve a chance to heal, and our family deserves a chance to heal with them.
I am Kitty's sister.
I am the niece of Jose Menendez.
I'm Kitty Menendez's nephew.
I am Kitty Menendez's niece. I grew up knowing and feeling something wasn't right. The feeling in their house and the father-son interactions were just off.
Lyle and Erik were failed by the very people who should have protected them, by their parents, by the system, by society at large.
Okay, this is where it gets real. Lyle and Erik didn't spend the last 30 years plus in prison doing nothing. They've been transforming, growing, and giving back in ways that have actually helped other inmates. For example, they've been key players in creating what's called the Green Space Project at their prison. This is a rehabilitation program that's actually inspired by a model in Norway, which prepares inmates to reintegrate into society rather than just punishing them. It's something that's designed to bring a sense of calm and healing into their lives of people who have been living in harsh, grey surroundings for years. Lyle in particular has been working on this project like a pro. He's been studying urban planning, and he's even pursuing a master's degree in the field to help create this therapeutic environment.
Part of what we plan on doing is highlighting the work that they have done, and the boys, I call them the boys, the brothers have done. The Ninth Circuit had rejected their habeas. They had no hope, and they were basically had resigned themselves to live the rest of their lives behind bars. You could go in two different directions at that point. They took a path that is not often traveled, and they have created programs. They have created green space programs. They have the love and support of an enormous family that has waited patiently for this day.
Meanwhile, Erik, who's an incredibly talented artist, has been painting murals around the prison. These murals bring color and hope to the space, and it's hard to believe that this type of transformation could happen in a place like that. Correctional officers and even the warden have recognized their efforts. In fact, some officers have written letters supporting the idea of releasing Lyle and Erik, saying they would welcome them as neighbors. Imagine, officers who were once responsible for guarding them now think they are ready to be part of the community.
I believe before Thanksgiving, they will be home. I still believe that. I believe we will have a hearing. I'm hopeful that we will have a fair hearing.
Just fresh out of the press conference, and I wanted to say thank you so much for all of your support. I've gotten so many words of encouragement, and I'm so grateful to all of you. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you that the press conference was happening. I already warned you that I was not going to break news ever. So thanks so much.
Now, you would think this decision would be universally supported, but of course, it's a big topic of debate. Some people see Gascón's recommendation as a calculated move for re-election. They're saying that Gascón is under pressure and trying to score political points. But let's look at the facts here. According to GAG-US, the DA has been pushing for more than just this one case. In the 3 years since he took office, Gascón's team has actually resentenced around 300 inmates, including people convicted of serious crimes. And here's the surprising part. Out of all these resentenced, only a handful have reoffended. And none of those cases involved violent crimes. This approach emphasizes rehabilitation, not just punishment.
I have to tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office that strongly believe that the Menendez brothers should stay in prison the rest of their life. And they do not believe that they were molested. And there are people in the office that strongly believe that they should be released immediately and that they were in fact molested.
The Menendez brothers are seen as the ultimate test of this approach. If these two can be considered for parole after such a high-profile case, it could redefine the way society views second chances, especially for cases rooted in claims of abuse. It's definitely challenging the way people see justice and redemption, and for some, it's uncomfortable. But for others, it's a long overdue acknowledgement that people can change. So here is where we stand now. Gascón's made the recommendation, but it's ultimately up to the judge to approve or deny it. If the judge sides with the DA, that's when a parole hearing would come into play. Their achievements and their plans are re-entering society. For re-entering society would be reviewed. And trust me, their family isn't leaving anything to chance. They've been working on a solid re-entry plan that includes financial and emotional support from loved ones to ensure the brothers have everything they need to succeed on the outside.
All of these family members will uniformly ask one thing, which is, bring them home, bring them home, bring them home, bring them home. Enough is enough. That's uniform. This is the family that knows them. It's the family that believes 35 years is enough.
Both brothers are currently pursuing education. Lyle's deep into a master's program, while Erik is working on his undergraduate degree. And it's not just about education. They are committed to continuing their prison reform work if they are released. They've been leading by example with projects like Green Space Initiative, showing that their focus is on healing, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. So if they are released, they are not just stepping into a new life. They are bringing the skills, compassion, and dedication they've built over the years. So where are we? After 3 decades, are we finally going to see a new ending for Lyle and Erik Menendez? For their family, friends, and everyone who believes in their redemption, this is a make or break moment.
Please know that I'm nervous and full of emotions. I never thought this day would come. In the years since their conviction, society's understanding of sexual abuse and its psychological impact has grown significantly. We understand that a person doesn't need to fit a specific mold, whether it's gender or socioeconomic status, in order to experience abuse.
Their journey has been one of loss, transformation, and growth. And if the judge grants this recommendation, it could mean freedom, not just for Lyle and Erik, but for their family who has stood by them all these years. So what do you think? Should the Menendez brothers get this second chance, or should the original verdict stand? Share your thoughts below, because this case isn't just about the past. It's about what's right and what the future could hold for these two. And of course, stay tuned for updates as we watch this case unfold. It's one of those stories that's far from over and could get the ending it's been waiting for.